Welcome to MZBC, the podcast for January 12th, 2022. Pastor Russell here, joined by Mr. Mike Reagan, Reclaim Life Group leader, evangelist, Mr. Go-To if you have a car problem, diesel problem, fishing question, all of the above. And today, if you're curious about how to fall asleep, he's ready.
I'm ready. I've been tuned out all day.
I think he just spread COVID throughout the whole room, but no, just kidding. Big sneeze, but we're going to claim no COVID in this room. But what's been going on, Mr. Mike? It's early in the week. It's only Wednesday. I feel like it's been a quick week. I think because of the football game that we're not talking about during this podcast. But
I don't know if I was a little anxious about next week because I just don't know my schedule yet.
Are you going out of town?
Well, it's not definite yet.
Okay.
So I told him, I said, I've got to have an answer tonight because the phone, it started blowing up today.
Oh.
So I can't keep telling people I don't know if am I going to be here or am I not going to be here?
Yeah, they need their stuff fixed.
Yeah, so I need to know to tell them yay or nay.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just been tuned out today.
Kind of just in a
yeah,
zone.
it's like you just not focused on anything.
I get that. Yeah. That was so Monday night was the national championship game. If you guys are out there listening, and go Dawgs if you're a Georgia fan. It was a great game, Mike. I wish you liked football because we could talk about it, and you're from Georgia, so you would have like this connection that you don't even know you have, but you don't. So it's all good. Georgia went 42 years without winning a national championship, and so God bless them. I'm happy for
42 years?
Yeah, 1980. You know, one of my best friends here at church, our biggest Georgia fan. I won't call his name. He's been on the podcast.
He's a little short guy.
He's my height. Big Georgia fan. Told me the other day he wasn't even born when they won. He was born in, I think, 82 or 83. Mm-hmm. And so I was surprised by that. But, you know, it was a good game. I really am happy for them. They don't believe me. They think I'm giving them a hard time or that I'm just like being facetious when I say that. But I'm being for real. I'm happy for them. Everyone needs to experience a championship. It's not like we're out there playing. Every fan needs to experience that excitement. And if you're in Georgia, you've really been spoiled because the Braves just won 3 months ago? October, November, December, January, yeah. So that quick, and then boom, Braves win, Bulldogs win. If you're living in Georgia, you should be looking around going what bad's about to happen because it's going way too good right now.
I guess that's one way to look at it.
I did get some confirmation last week. Jimmy Carter was the president that was born in Georgia. One of our
You said Plains.
That's the
Georgia
name that comes to my mind, and I know that's one of the ones that we did stop at on that train tour. My wife told me that it was called. I want to call it Sam's Short Rail, but I don't think that's it. I'm pretty sure it's like Sam's Short Line. But I mean, it's a railroad, so I feel like Short Rail would have been a better name. But I think it's Short Line, and I think I say it wrong every time.
He rode the short train.
Yeah. Do they still have that?
What?
Like the short bus? I mean, I know it's
I was behind
Rudy.
one today when I come through here on the way home from Fayetteville. And they're paving Rex Road, right when you turn off Mount Zion down there.
Yeah.
And I was behind a Clayton County bus.
I just wonder because
and right where the road where they started eating up the asphalt, I mean the bus just locked it down like she was about to drive off a cliff, and I almost went right up under the back of her.
Man.
I was like, it's a bump.
She didn't like the.
It's not a brick wall. I'm amazed, just caught off guard. I don't know.
Because I'm sure in 2022, when everything in the world is politically correct and you're not allowed to say anything negative about anyone without being afraid of offending them, I'm sure you can't say that someone rides a short bus and give them a hard time. When I was younger, I mean, that was a thing. Was it a thing here?
Yeah.
Yeah, everywhere, right? So if you ride a short bus or you did
that just means you can't get as many people on it.
Yeah, you go. That's what it means. That's exactly what it means. So, yeah. How do we? Oh, yeah, short line, short rail.
Sure.
So that was the thing. You go down and do a couple of tours in those cities, but Jimmy Carter, I should have known that. But
I'm not saying it right. Got to say Jimmy Carter.
Oh, Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter.
Oh, with the Georgia twang.
No, that's a Yankee thing.
That's a Yankee thing.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter.
There's a couple of older ladies that go to church here, and they say the name Martha, like Martha, and I love it. Every time they say it, I'm like, just say that again. I feel like I went back in time, like it's 1950 or 60 something, and we're talking old English. It was kind of cool.
It's like I've called up north. And they're like, "Where's that located?" I said, "Over in DeKalb." Oh, in DeKalb. I was like, "Yeah,
that's where it's at."
DeKalb.
Yeah. Georgia. I mean, this is obvious things that everyone points out, but I mean, they have some peculiar ways to say names. Houston County. I mean,
Houston.
What do you call it? Houston.
Houston.
Yeah, that's exactly what the rest of the world would call it, but everyone in Georgia does not call it Houston County. They all call it Houston, which makes no sense. There's a Houston, Texas that's spelled exactly the same. Which one came first? I'm going to say
probably
Georgia.
Houston, Texas.
I don't know. I would have said Georgia because we expanded west, so I'd figure like Georgia might have been here before.
That don't mean the county was here, though.
Well, don't get me lying about geography because I didn't know where
I don't know.
I didn't know where Illinois was on a map until I married my wife. So, I mean, when you're from lower Alabama, you don't really worry about geography like that. No jokes from all you Georgia people. We don't need any of that. So since we met last, there's been a national championship game. Bama got blown out, 14 points, 15 points, whatever it was. And there was a golf tournament this weekend that I know you didn't watch. But the dude that won shot 35 under par, like over the 4 days, which may mean nothing to you if you're not a golfer, but par is even, and everything under that is really great. Dude shot 35 shots under. And so I was pretty motivated about that and went and played golf on went and played golf.
What'd you score? 35 over?
You're joking. You're trying to joke about that. I went and played golf on Saturday with my brother.
Now, 100 is the baseline?
No,
is
72.
That it? 72 is the baseline?
Basically,
okay.
Yeah. 72 is par. Most courses 72, some 73. It was so bad playing golf on Friday. My brother left on the 13th hole. He was like, "I'm done. I don't even want to play anymore."
Because you were bad, or he was just mad?
I won't say he was bad, but he was not having a good day. Oh. And so when we passed the parking lot, he got in his truck and said, "I'm out of here." And I wish he would have stayed because I shot 101. And so I was 29 shots over par. And it was a hard course. I never played there before. When you go to these places, sometimes they will, if you only have 2 people in your group, they'll partner you with other 2 people to make the day go by faster. So we didn't know these guys we were playing with. It was a dad and his 14-year-old son. And his 14-year-old son was better than I'll ever be. It was so sad. He was just killing the ball. And I think that might have been part of why my brother left. He was like, "This 14-year-old's crushing us, so I'm out of here." But if he would have stayed, he would have saw that I shot a 101. None of it was good, so I had fun though. You know, it was freezing cold, but it was a good time. And then we had church on Sunday, which that was good. Also, I don't know, were you in the building on Sunday or were you working?
I was up in the art.
Yeah, you were.
I was trying to listen to you on the phone.
Oh, that's right.
I literally had it up to my ear and still barely hear you.
I know. I don't know what's up with that. I went back and watched it.
And then you tried to blame it on my phone.
I'm not going to blame it on your phone again, but I went back and watched it on my phone, and I heard everything. So I don't know. I won't blame
Haley said hers was the same way.
Yeah, so I'm blaming it on the Reagans then. I don't know what's up with that. It might have been us. So church on Sunday, I was going to say, I don't know if you were there, but I was scared when we first started church because when the countdown went off.
Oh, you said it was like 8
people. I was like, holy cow. Like, is everyone sick with COVID? COVID did make its rounds through Mount Zion last week. No one got deadly sick or anything like that, but probably, honestly, it affected probably about 30 people. Just being around people that had COVID and actually getting it. And so they're all on the mends and bouncing back now. But when I stood up to preach and the room was filling up, I was so excited because I was like, it's so hard to talk to a small number of people. I don't mind speaking to small numbers of people if I go into it knowing that I'm speaking to a small group. When you prepare a sermon and you're like, want to speak to the audience and then there's such a small group, I don't know, it just, it doesn't make me feel like anything about me, but I'm like, it's hard to put all your energy into 8 people or whatever. I don't know. It shouldn't. I guess if one person's there, they may need to hear something, but it still does. And so, but it turned out really well. So church was good, golf was good, football game wasn't good, but life goes on. God keeps providing, and here we are today.
A friend at the Parks house this morning, he's a Georgia guy, and he goes, "Man, my daughter went around to 16 different stores to find a newspaper." Yeah. He said, finally found one, and then I found out they had 4 different covers.
Oh, wow.
I was like, you went to 16 service stations?
It was big. When the Braves won
the He said what they'll do, and he's talking about the old newspaper machines. You put your money in, you open the door. He said one person will open it up and take all of them out.
Yeah, shady. I know. When the Braves won the World Series a couple months back.
Yeah, I remember when they, 20 years down the road, I went and I stole all the newspapers for a quarter. Don't forget to put that in your story, Grandpa.
The print media is going out of business. People are stealing all their stuff. They got no profits. When the Braves won the World Series, I went around trying to get the same thing. There was, I don't even know if it's on the cover.
He said Academy opened up at midnight to sell a football T-shirt.
Yeah, that's what they did when the Braves won. The Braves game ended at like 11, I want to say about 11:30, 11:45 on that night, and Academy was opening up as soon as the final out was made. To sell
so they
T-shirts.
Just go ahead and pre-print all these things,
absolutely,
whether they win or not?
With both teams. So like the other night when Alabama and Georgia played, they had T-shirts, hats, everything for both teams. Actually, one of the Georgia linebackers grabbed the wrong hat out of the box. And when they went out on the field for the championship little celebration, he had the Alabama hat on. So that was kind of awesome. But there's probably kids over in Haiti and third world countries that are rocking Alabama 2022 national champions. And who the Braves play? The Houston Astros.
Houston
Astros. 2021 World Series champs. So, I think they do that in every big thing. They print both. And whatever team loses, they ship them to other countries.
To Haiti, as you say.
I think that's true.
I was curious how they do that so quick.
So quick, yeah.
So they just go ahead and print it all up.
Now, places like Academy, I don't know what they would do because they can't afford to print both, I wouldn't think.
You don't think so?
I mean, Academy, I know they're a big name, but you can only print so many thousands of shirts with the wrong names on it before you start losing money, right? I would think that, I don't know, maybe they have a bigger overhead and more money than I think they do, but I just feel like Nike could do it, and Under Armour could do it, and big names like that, but Academy, maybe they can, I don't know. But it definitely happens. I would love to get my hands on a 2021 Alabama National Championship shirt. I would just like to rock it just to have it. Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting an email with a bunch of logins for streaming devices from family members. I don't know if that's legal, but I wish he would have told me he was going to send that because I just re-upped some of mine that I'm paying for, and I could have just got them for free. But don't do that. It's illegal.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Good. So last week, we didn't even get into the book of John. So I think we can jump right in it tonight and see what the word's saying. We talked about with Morgan, people being spiritually blind and Jesus healing the blind man. And we talked about...
You remember that far back?
No, but I remember that we said that last week. What we said about being spiritually blind and all these things, I'm not exactly sure, but that is what we talked about. And so then the next section of Scripture here is John chapter 10, and Jesus is explaining to the Pharisees again. This one he uses the parable or just the story of him being the good shepherd, and he explains what that means. So I'll read it, and then we can just talk about whatever comes to our mind. But John chapter 10, it says this. It says, "Very truly I tell you Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought all his own, He goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. And Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. In verse 7 it says, "Therefore Jesus said again, Very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. And the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." And some scriptures will say, or translations will say, and have it more abundantly. Verse 11 says, "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. And then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. But he says, I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep. They are not of this sheep pen. He says, I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. The reason my Father loves me is that I will lay down my life, only to take it up again. He says, no one takes it from me, but I lay it down for my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up. This command I received from my Father. The Jews who heard these words were again divided. Many of them said, he is a demon-possessed and raving mad. Why listen to him? But others said, these are not the sayings of a man possessed by a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? And so Jesus is still rocking their world with all these things he's coming in and changing. And basically what he's telling them here is, like, I'm the good shepherd. My sheep know my name. That's why they follow me. Anyone else that comes in is an imposter and a crook. And he says, I have all these other ones that I'm going to call, and they're going to follow me. And the reason they're following me is because I lay down my life for them. And so he's talking about himself.
It's something I think about when you were reading this. Is a lot of times I'll think of when Levi and myself are out. Let's just say me and him out in the woods, and this could pertain to the same thing you just said. Is wherever I go, it doesn't matter. He's going to follow me. So I could be walking us, through the woods and right off a cliff. Well, he's going to follow me. He may not go off it, but he's going to follow me. Or, we're going to walk over here and walk down into the river, and fish or swim or whatever. And he's going, okay, wherever you go, I'm going to be right there behind you.
For one, he trusts you.
Yeah, because he's looking to me as his guide, and that's what we can do here with the Good Shepherd. And he's not really calling us sheep. He's using it as a parable, but he's the leader, and we're to follow him. And if we listen to him anywhere he goes, we can trust what he says and where he goes. It's going to be for our good.
Yeah, I mean,
and we'll always be safe and in comfort, and we won't have anything to fear.
Yeah. Like you said, not that he's calling us sheep. I think what he's saying here is that sheep are like a simple animal. They're not doing a lot of thinking. They're not pondering over deep things. They're like, if I follow this guy, he's going to lead me to water. He's going to lead me to food. He's going to have a safe place for us to sleep.
When I fall in that hole, he'll pull me out.
Yeah. If I break my leg, he'll put me on the shoulders and carry me around. If the wolf is coming up, he's going to protect me. And so we're the same. We need to know that whatever we put our faith in, whatever we put our trust in, is going to be there to protect us, is going to be there to lead us to the water, the food, the whatever, the bread of life, the water that will quench our thirst more than anything in the world. We need to know that, and that's just who we follow. And I guess that is a different understanding than these Pharisees knew. It's interesting to me because they knew.
I think they're still stuck on him comparing himself. Oh, there's the COVID.
Yeah.
Just over there.
It's over there.
Because he's comparing himself or making himself equal with God by saying he's my Father. That was their big thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, and out of, I think it was 3 or 4 false charges that they were trying to get blasphemy to stick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like, you've got no grounds, but go ahead.
And it's interesting also, you just need to see that there's like this divide. There's some of them that are definitely believing what he's saying. There's some of them that are looking at it and going, well, what is happening here? This is not what I grew up knowing. This is not what I understand. This can't be happening. And there's others that are like, I don't know. You know, God said these things were going to happen. It's happening. Now, this guy might not be the guy that we think he is or who he thinks he even is, but there's something going on here. And I think the same is true with us. I mean, they have us in the room that will hear something and say, oh, fact, that's true. I believe it and I'm following it. And then you have the other people in the room that are like on the fence, maybe
skeptics,
not, a little skeptical. And what we're called to do is to be like the example, be the people actually living out the lives that believe this in front of other people so that they can see some solid truth, like some facts. We talked about last week in church, God being a just God, and it's always good. It's good for sure, but it's also scary to me because God being just means that he always does everything that's right. Like his judgment is going to be based on what you do in your life, good or bad. And knowing that he knows all your bad is a little fearful. You know what I mean? Like, and so, but he's always going to set the standard so high that we know it's godly. It's pushing us into a closer relationship. It's going to take us to the best place our life could go, whether or not we realize it or not. And Jesus is part of that. He's part of that righteousness. He's part of that good. He's the only thing that can restore what that sin in our life or sin in our past severed that relationship. And Jesus is the only one that can get us back perfectly into it. And he's telling them here, look, my sheep follow me. They know my name. They know my voice. They know what I sound like, what I say.
It's like when I speak, it pierces their heart.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's something about this guy.
Yeah,
because they even said themselves, the Pharisees and even the common people said he speaks with authority. Who teaches and talks like this?
Yeah,
and Nicodemus even said, we know you're from God because you do the things that only God can do. It's like, okay, well, what's the problem? It's just listen. And another thing, and you mentioned it, is I think we get too hung up on being bad. I think we get way too hung up on that. For instance, I thought about a couple weeks ago, I handed a guy a Bible, and he goes, or handed him a Bible, and he said this particular thing, or you'll hear somebody say, well, man, I walked in the church and surprised I didn't burst into flames. What does that even mean? What makes you think you walk in this building you're going to catch on fire? Or if you get handed a Bible, why you think your arm's going to catch on fire? I said, where's the connection? I said, what does that even mean? I said, if you think you're too bad, then you're telling what you're actually saying is you're too far gone that God can't help you. So now you're putting limitations on him.
I agree. We do look at the not even negative, just like the sinful part of our life. We focus a lot on it, like in general.
Yeah, and I was that way because we all sin, but we all have those specific sins in our life. Like it could be negativity, so we're always focused on what we know is our weakest point. And what I tell the guys and what I'm still trying to comprehend myself is let's not get so hung up on being sinful because we're going to sin. That's they call it a human sinful nature. We cannot not sin. We're just going to do it because that's us. And no matter how hard you fight that one particular sin in your life, that vice, you're going to do it. But let's look at at least God has given me a repentant heart, and I can go to Him and say, I messed up again. Let's focus on His grace and His mercy and His love. He says, I know, but you'll never be able to sin so much as long as you have a repentant heart and come and tell me you're fine, you're good, you're in.
I think that was a huge, and it's a huge obstacle that I'm still trying to hurdle that I'm trying to clear in my life right now. It's exactly what you're saying. I grew a lot, I think, in the last 4 or 5 years, trying to get past the point of, can God really use me? Like, He can use me, obviously. Can He use me to the extent that I picture God using pastors or teachers? Like, before you're a pastor or a teacher, you have those people on at least I did. I had them on a pedestal because I'm like, well, there must be something super special about them. They must be perfect. Like, they must pray the best, read their Bible the best all the time.
All these people listen to them, and they follow them and interact with them. And,
right. So they must have it going on. And then God calls you in your life to be that, and you go get the training, you go do the education part that God calls you to do, finish that up, and you realize, man, these are just a bunch of guys or women, whatever, both in classes. These are just a bunch of people that are trying to do what God's called them to do. They're going to continue to be sinful, hopefully not to the extent they were before, but there are going to be things in their life, and God can still use them. Like you say, every time you throw out an excuse, well, I can't do that because this in my life, or I won't do that because of this in my life, you're limiting God's power and just control over that whole situation.
Yeah.
And He's more powerful than any sin in our life.
And I guess it goes to, I think it's Romans 12, is you have to have a renewed sense of thinking. We can't continue to think in our old ways as that we thought of until, mine was 32 is when I finally got saved. But we carry that on because it's our mind, but we have to slowly change our way of thinking. For example, it's, when you get in a traffic, you say, well, some idiot wrecked. It's like, well, they're still a human. They may have made a bad choice or something, or they could have blew a tire and the car flipped over. It had nothing to do with it. They're still a human. Whether you have no idea who they are. They could have been rushing to the hospital to see somebody that their family got shot or something.
Yeah, I think you said that months back when we first started doing this.
So that's just an example of how you have to think not worldly, but how would God see that? And had a really interesting talk the other day, and we got in a discussion of this particular person I was talking to said, they were going to Sunday school and they're heavily involved in church and the Bible and whatnot. And I guess this one day they went in and they had just finished reading this book or going through a lesson by this guy that wrote the material. And I guess the way it was said in the class, he said everybody was raving about the author or the teacher, whoever he was that wrote the material. And he said, Mike, it bothered me because they're putting that guy, like you just said, on a pedestal instead of who he was writing about. He said, what about the guy that wrote this book? Why don't we put him on a pedestal? And he said, I think you're doing a great job, but I'm out. I was like, well, I mean, it makes sense. I don't know. That's just what he told me. And I mean, I'm sure I hope there would be other things that led him to leave, but I understand, we're putting all these people, like you just said, before you were in that position. It's like, well, that's the next Billy Graham or the John Hagee or whoever, T.D. Jakes or Tony Evans.
Yeah.
It's like, but okay, well, be careful because who are you following when you're following that person?
A lot of people would fall victim to following the person behind the movement and not the Jesus behind the movement, for sure. I mean, that's happened all over the world, different preachers, different pastors, different movements. People fall in love with
and I'm sure it's easy to get really sucked into that if you're the front and center of something like that.
I mean, because when you're doing a good work and people are responding to it, yeah, for sure, I can see that being something that would be kind of addicting, like that rush of people listening to you. It's that constant struggle to stay humble in all that God's allowing you to be a part of, remembering that it's not you really, it's Him working through you. You're just a vessel. But you're right, some people handle it better than other people. I think as we have been growing, and I'll say for myself and the leadership here at the church, there's a huge focus on everyone understanding that it's not up to me to be the only person sharing the gospel or the only person serving our community or the only person doing whatever. We're all together. Now, God has called me to be the ringleader of this circus, but, you know, and I like that some days, and some days it's just a struggle, and some days
it's like I'm going to trade in my bullwhip for a cattle prod.
Everyone go that way. Pow! And the more people that understand, like, we can all do this, but it takes every one of us, that's when I think that the church really becomes what the church is. Because the church you read about in here, back when we were studying, was it wherever we were looking at Paul, and he was with Priscilla and Aquila, and they were in Acts. That's where we were, and they were going through and making tents and meeting in their house, and you know, selling everything they had so no one went without. There was no looking to Paul as, you're the pastor, you do all that, and we'll just show up and listen to you and whatever. No, it was like, we are the church. We're the hands and feet of Jesus, all of us. And so that's a huge thing for Mount Zion. That's a huge thing for I think the church in general.
Yeah, the church body as anywhere on planet Earth.
Anywhere, yeah. And there's people that I've come into contact with and have worked with and work with now that understand that really well. And we're, I think for COVID being around for 2 years, for just the transition in power, I don't know how you say that, the transition in leadership here, we've done an exceptional job. Now, I think there's sometimes when we beat ourselves up because we're like, you always think you could do more. I mean, you always want to do more, not even just the busy do more, just I want to know more. I want to be able to explain things better. I want to have a closer walk. If someone asks me a question, I want to give them like the real answer, not just an answer. So we always want to strive for that. But I think just keeping the flow of everything, keeping people united together, understanding the call to reach the community, to invest in families, I think we've done exceptional. And it's not me, it's not any of our other leaders. It's strictly just like, we're not the ones in charge. We're just trying to follow what Jesus said to do.
Like when Peter went to see Cornelius, and Cornelius bowed down. He said, "Don't do that." So I'm a dude just like you are. He said, "Why'd you send for me?" And then, you know, an angel told me to. He goes, "Okay,
yeah,
this is what I know."
and Jesus, in this little parable here, he was telling them, I mean, because back in that day, there were shepherds for more than just sheep, I would assume. There were a lot of wild animals out there, so there were people shepherding different things. And Jesus understood that, so he's telling them all this stuff like, my sheep know my voice, and I know their names, and I call them by name. And so just relating us to that.
Because if you feed them, and you give them water, and you take care of them, yeah, any body or any animal will follow that.
And so he says, okay, with that being said, like, they'll follow anything. If it feeds them, gives them water, gives them safety, they'll follow it. But what takes him even one step above that was he said, I'm the good shepherd, and I will lay down my life for these sheep. He's like the hired hand. Like, if I hire somebody to come help me,
oh no, I'm out.
And the wolf starts coming running up, I'm out.
Ooh,
yeah, exactly. If you hired somebody and they were at work with you, and some wolves were attacking y'all when y'all were replacing
if the customer got too aggressive, well, guess what? He's leaving.
They're gonna, like,
guess who's going to have to go deal with it?
Handle that, Mike.
All right.
You're in charge.
And something I heard, I don't remember where I read it or where I heard it, but kind of the difference between the Old Testament, many differences, but since we're on the sheep and shepherd, between the Old Testament and the New, is in the Old Testament, the sheep were sacrificed for the shepherd. In the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the shepherd was sacrificed for the sheep.
Yeah.
It was backwards.
I like that. I never heard that described before. But
I've heard it or read it somewhere. I don't recall.
That's exactly what happened and what makes
and that's
Jesus
what he just said.
Such a big deal. That I'm the good shepherd because I lay down my life for the sheep. And he said not only that, not only do I lay down my life for the sheep, but he says that I'm going to take it up again. Like I'm going to lay it down.
And I've thought about that. Have you ever really thought about it? He goes, I'm going to die for you, but nobody takes my life. I just give it up, and then I can take it up when I want to. I'm like, so are you really dying? I mean, are you really putting a sacrifice on it?
Yeah. That is.
I mean, he did, but just if we take it at face value, it's like, so are you really dying, or are you just like taking a break?
That is an interesting take on it. But yeah, he says, my Father loves me, and I lay down my life only to take it up again. Mm-hmm. No one takes it from me, he said, but I lay it down on my own accord. Yeah. Then again, he says, this command I received it from my Father. So he keeps everything he does and everything he says, he keeps pointing back to, I do none of this on my own. I'm doing it everything for God the Father. That laying down in your life and then taking it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down on my own accord. Just points to his surrender, like his willingness to do the uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's an understatement. Death is far more than uncomfortable, but to do the thing that you would never choose to do on behalf of someone else that you don't even know, it just points to the magnitude of Jesus. And
that's how it would be ultimate love.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's what we were kind of talking about a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the characteristics of God and his love that's unconditional. I mean, it's these acts like this, these things that happen like this, that when I'm trying to talk to someone or encourage someone, I mean, sometimes follow Jesus sounds too simple. Like it's just, they need more than that. I mean, you have to elaborate on that. And so I go from, okay, you should follow Jesus because this is where my life was. And these are some real ways that he stepped in and showed me this unconditional love. You know, he could have, it says in here that he calls us by name and he leads us out. Whatever trouble we're in, at some point in our life, he called out Russell, he called out Mike, and he led us out of whatever we were in. Yeah. And he led us
and we were also willing to follow him.
True. He probably was yelling our name a long time before we actually said, oh, do you hear that? Like, what is that noise? And then, oh, somebody's saying, Russell, go this way. And so you have to give people, and it helps for me to talk about real life things where Jesus met me and things I was into and things I was doing and how he saved me from those things. And I think back now on those things, where would my life be if I would have went down that path? I don't know, broke, dead, single. I don't know. Would my wife have stayed with me in that direction I was going? I have no idea. But since I answered the call when he was calling me like these sheep and laid down his life for me, I have nothing but good to talk about when it comes to Christ, when it comes to God. And so I hope what we try to do and what I try to do is just encourage people with those real life things. Yeah, you need Jesus, but this is why. Like, this is what he did for me.
I have told some people, they're like, well, I just don't know. I'm like, well, look. I said, you didn't always smoke pot, right? He goes, yeah. I said, but you gave it a chance, right? He goes, yeah. I'm like, well, give Christ a chance. And if you don't like him, guess what? You can turn away. Yeah. Go do something else.
I've heard that.
I said, but if you give him a chance and you honestly give it a good chance, you're not going to want to leave.
Right. And you never know. I mean, we know Jesus on this deep of a level where we know he called us. We know he's all these things are just little analogies and little things he's speaking to about eternal life. He's the only one that that guards the gate. I mean, the gate to heaven. This is how you get in. Jesus is the only way. He dies for us, only to rise again. So he's going to die. He's going to be risen on that third day. And he doesn't do any of that on his own. He does it because God the Father told him to, which all of that just points back to God's love for us. And what you're saying, you have to give him the authority. I mean, he has all authority, but you have to give him the authority to say.
You have to willingly want him in your life.
Yeah.
Because he's not necessarily going to force his way in, but he'll let you go down certain roads in your life to where when you hit that dead end, for me, and you turn around, he's the only one there. It's like, well, since you're the only one here, will you help me? I will.
He's like, I've been waiting.
Yeah. So it's in that sense. But he's not going to make you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just that's why he gave us a free will. He can't make us do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when it comes to giving, it said he wants a cheerful giver, not a begrudging giver. Is that right? He wants you to freely give it to him.
Yeah.
He don't want you to give it to him because he's asking you.
Mm-hmm. It's huge.
Yeah, it's free will. He wants you. He loves you regardless because he knows no other way. Mm-hmm. That's just who he is. Now us, we have to kind of learn to love him because at first we don't.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just an interesting thing to where he says that. I'm trying to find exactly where he said it. He calls the sheep by name and leads them out. I'm trying to skip around. That's 5. They'll never follow a stranger. In fact, they'll run away from him because they don't recognize a stranger's voice.
Yes, the voice.
If you don't know the voice of Jesus, and the only way to know the voice of Jesus, I guess, is to read God's word. I mean, I don't know that I've ever heard Jesus verbally say anything to me. If I have, I don't remember it, but it's speaking through his word. And so you get in there and you read and you study and you just do things, and then it says you'll know. So if someone does come into your life and they start talking some other type of nonsense, if they're trying to lead you in a different direction, you have something to judge it against and to base your decision off of. I love the verse 10 here, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. And Jesus says, but I come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. I think for me, there are times when I don't live the abundant life. Is like you said, we think about the negatives with my shortfalls so many times. But Jesus calls us to have life, to have this unexplainable joy, and to live life to the fullest. I mean, just embrace every day, be thankful every day, just to have a general sense of happy about you. What the Dynasty guys be like, happy. Yeah, I mean, that's like the whole thing. Just be happy. I mean, the Bible never promises that you'll be happy. Like, that's not a concern, and you said that before. He's not concerned if you're happy or not. He's more concerned if you're obedient. But it's in that obedience you will find happiness, because you'll find contentment, and you'll just see things in your life where God's worked and is working and will continue to work, and you're experiencing blessings that you would not experience typically, and it's all God just doing these things. Yep.
He told exactly what the evil in his agenda. It's just 3 things: steal, kill, and destroy, and that's what he does. Now he will do it forcefully.
Oh, the evil one will definitely do it forcefully.
He will jump on your back and say, "Yeah."
It's crazy to me too how easily, even now. I mean, I've been walking with God pretty heavily for. I mean, the first 3 or 4 years I was a new believer. It was kind of light, and I was like, I'm gonna get to heaven because I believe this, so I'll roll with it. But for the last 9 or 10 years, I feel like I've been pretty in depth in it, like really trying to put my all into it. And man, I can still let the evil one creep in and still kill and destroy things in my life, no doubt.
That's what he's good at.
It's crazy. It just seems like it shouldn't be that easy, but it is for many people.
Oh yeah, really.
For many people. And after you've taken a beat down for so long, I mean, some people just throw in the towel and say, forget it.
I can't do it anymore. I can't do it.
Sadly, I think that's when people finally turn to the gospel, when they're ready to just I've tried everything, I've done everything I can.
I don't know what else to do. It's like, well, if you're done trying to fight for yourself, give me a call.
Yeah.
And I'll fight for you.
Yeah.
Because I was telling the one guy when we were on side of the interstate, I was like, when I fall and give in to whatever it is that day that's completely against God, I was like, I don't have to fight that battle. So Satan's already been defeated. Jesus did that. And then Satan's jumping on your back and going to knock you down. But eventually he's going to get off of you. And you're going to stand up And then Jesus like, don't worry about him. He'll be back, but I'm always here. Because he's going to run. He said, when you resist the devil, he will flee from you. So he might jump on you for 20 minutes, a couple of days, but eventually he'll leave. But Jesus is going to be like, come on, I'll hip you up. He can't stay because I've already defeated him. So he's going to keep coming back, beating on you, but he's not always staying. He's going to show up, do what he's got to do, and then leave, get you down and out. And if he gets you down and out long enough, he keeps you down there long enough in that hole, you won't look up to see Jesus reaching down. It's like, just all you got to do is take my hand, and I'll get you out of the hole. Just like the good shepherd does. That's why the shepherd's staff was real tall and it was curved on the end. So when the sheep fell down in the hole, he'll use that staff and scoop them up like a hook and get them out. That's why it was curved like that. That's what he done. He said, I'm the shepherd. I'm going to protect my sheep. I will lay down my life for them. So Satan's going to come, but as long as he keeps you looking down and keep you from looking toward Jesus and in the good stuff, the abundant life, he's not concerned about you.
Right. And I think another interesting thing about these sheep, sheep in general, I think, are just followers in general. These sheep have nothing to be boastful about. Like, they're not proud. They don't think they have anything figured out. They know, I have to follow this guy.
They get fed. They get food and water. And every, 6 months, he shaves me. And that's it. That's my life.
Yeah.
And I give them clothes, and they get to stay warm, and don't have to walk around naked. And they just keep feeding me.
It's super simple because it's the same for us. I mean, he provides food, water, shelter in different ways than he provided it for the sheep, but he's still providing the same thing. He's providing the nourishment. He's providing the shelter from the elements. He's providing every nutritional thing you need to survive and to grow and to prosper.
And to have an abundant life.
And he's just looking for one thing. And it always seems to come down to this: surrender, obedience. It's not about me. It's about others. And it's about doing the things that I'm uncomfortable doing, also that people will look past me and see the God that I serve. And that's super easy to say, and I can say that every week on a podcast, but living that out day to day becomes, a little tough, because I guess
other days are easier than some.
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely days where I have more sympathy for people than there are other days, like Sunday.
When, it's like you just need to suck it up and get over it.
Yeah. I had a moment on Sunday where I was just joking, obviously, about what we were talking about, but your wife was there, and there were a couple other people there, but I could tell in the midst of the joking that they weren't in a joking mood, and so I better get serious real quick. And so I just changed the subject, went to something else, and then I texted Haley later and was like, hey, sorry about that. She was like, it's all good. We all have those moments.
I guess we can go on record. I went out to lunch with you guys.
He did, yes.
Public place.
And you looked really excited about it.
You come up to me. Haley kept saying what the plan you had for lunch that day, it didn't pan out, so you took some other people.
Were exposed to COVID, yeah.
And Haley's like, well, Russell's going to take us out to Mexican after it's a Frontera. I was like, if you want to go.
She said, no, you have to tell Mike.
And then I was in the truck waiting for her, to come outside. And you and Elijah pulled up. Hey, we're going to meet at Frontera. You want to go? I was like, if Haley wants to go.
When she told me, she said, tell Mike that I want to go. That's the only way he'll go. And so you did. It was a good time. And those are the type things, because, we would go.
You see, when I go back to that place, a lot of my old times come back, because a lot of my old times were spent in there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Many hundreds of gallons.
Of water. A lot of water.
Yeah, with rice.
Fermented water.
lots of times there.
So I was being,
but I don't avoid it because of that. I just, when I go back there, all that comes back.
I was going against the scripture there that says, "Do not cause your brother to stumble." I brought you right back to where there was huge stumbling blocks.
I didn't stumble.
No, you didn't.
No, I just remember those old stomping grounds.
Yeah, got you. There are definitely places I would not go to because of that same reason too.
Yeah, but I don't. That's not my sin. That's not my vice.
And I think that you're just a small microcosm of like the struggle with trying to reach people, because like you don't enjoy going out and doing all that thing, but we do it all the time. And so if we're going to connect away from church, it's got to be at something like that, even if it's not like something we like to do. And so you understand that. And so we went, and it was fine, and it was all good. Now,
and we were all with church people.
And, yeah.
There was no reason to connect.
We were, well, I'll beg to differ a little on that. We need to connect on a different level of me always being the pastor.
Outside of work, per se.
Yeah,
outside of work.
That's right. And so trying to grow as that family other than just the church staff. And so it's all part of it. But yeah, that's the struggle, because you have to go out of your comfort zone to do things that people like to do that maybe you don't like fully embrace, to be able to make that connection.
Depending on the situation, yeah, I'm not against it.
Yeah. I'll pretty much do anything anybody wants to do, even if I don't like it. If it has,
since you went on record,
that's a chance.
You're gonna go to work with me a couple days then.
Like work, like
yeah, you're gonna have to get
fishing.
dirty. No work.
Oh, I gotta go. I don't mind working. Honestly, I like working more than I like managing.
And see, I know you don't like the cold, so before winter's over, you're gonna go.
Okay.
So when I go out in the morning and it's 25 degrees.
Yeah.
Yep.
I roofed before. I mean, I've been on a house at 7 o'clock in the morning when it's 30 degrees outside. And so I've been there before. Now, it's been a good 10, 15 years, but I've done it before.
Not a bad 15 years, but a good one.
Good one. Great 15 years.
Because you're not roofing.
When you wake up in the morning and you don't have to go outside for your job every day, it's a good day. So, yeah, I'm down with that. I'll go to work with you and do something uncomfortable just to not blossom our friendship, but grow it more.
There was something you said.
Yeah,
at lunch.
I went like.
Oh yeah, it's like God.
I almost lost our friendship over that.
I
forget what somebody said, and I was just giving them like the
drink.
I'm cool with that.
It was for drinking, or
oh yeah. I forget.
What's that? It was good. And you see Levi, he just said, "No, I'm going to take a nap."
Yeah.
So yeah,
he was done.
That's my boy.
Yeah, he was done for that day. But that's all part of what we're trying to do, growing and being in each other's life, and Levi seeing us out and about, my kids seeing you guys out and about, and knowing that if anything ever happened, I was beginning to wonder if
Elijah was going to share any chips. He was just somewhere.
That's been his problem since he was like a wee.
It was like a conveyor belt.
Yeah, man.
I was like, "Can I get a scoop of cheese before you drink it all?"
We used to tell him when we got it, like, "Hey, that's not just for you." Like, that's
as he go, okay.
That's true. That's funny you notice that, because he definitely does that.
See, they used to. They had 2 bowls. They had like that, and then they had like a half a gallon. That we just went ahead and got that one.
The big one. Yeah. So Elijah is he bogarts the cheese sauce. Yeah, he doesn't like that shit. Oh man, but yeah. So Jesus is the good shepherd. He's the only one that can keep you going in the right direction, protects you, be the gatekeeper to eternity. Says here that like a lot of shepherds could probably do that back in the day, but there's only one that will actually lay down his life for you. And then he takes it a step further and says, not only will I lay down my life for you, but I'm going to come back after I lay it down. And it's all under the authority of my Father, the command I received from my Father. And so we leave the Pharisees here going, this man doesn't talk like a crazy man. This man doesn't talk like somebody that's possessed by a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind?
And I guess we should note in 19, mine says again, a division took place among the Jews because of these working Jews with the capital J. How was yours?
Same.
So we'll just make a note for the folks listening. When it says Jews in the Bible like that, it's basically the religious leaders. It's not the Jewish race of people, but like the Pharisees and
Sadducees, all these guys running around in the big fancy outfits that thought they had all the rules and regulations figured out. And they did. For their time, they had it figured out. They just weren't necessarily ready to make this big change, and Jesus is coming onto the scene and ready to shake up their world. And so I guess, Mike, what I get related to 2022, what are we saying about this Good Shepherd, and how can someone listen to this podcast just not say, well, that's a cool story, I get it, and God is good in y'all's life, but what is it?
Yeah, it's good because you're reading out of that book. Well, it's still true. He will still talk to you, but he doesn't physically show up and talk to you, but he'll talk to you through the Holy Spirit now. And it could be because they're listening to us on the podcast. And he could be talking directly to them. He's just using us because we're allowing ourselves to be used. We're doing it willingly. Because I'm sure there's a lot of other things we could be doing at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday night. But, that's how are they going to hear if nobody goes and tells them?
That's exactly right.
That's what we talked about a little bit this past Sunday in class. So how are they going to hear if nobody teaches them or nobody preaches? How are they going to know about the one that can save them?
Right. And so that's what our call is to share that information. And so I guess our encouragement for tonight is the Good Shepherd is still the Good Shepherd. He didn't go anywhere. He hasn't passed away, and you can't still call on him.
He's still shepherding.
When you hear that little voice off in the distance calling you from whatever sinful thing you have going on in your life, it could be as simple as a thought. It could be something you've done. When you hear that little voice calling you, saying, "Hey, this is the way," it could be that Good Shepherd trying to get your attention.
And don't have the mindset of, well, when I get right, you'll never get right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll never get right. You come now. You go now, because now may be the only time. For example, there was a guy that he was an outside salesman where I buy a lot of my parts, and he was a Christian guy. We didn't talk a lot because we didn't see each other a lot in the store because he was always outside selling. Well, I don't remember the exact day, but let's just say on Wednesday he wasn't feeling too hot, so naturally he went and got tested. I think he had already had the vaccine. He went and got tested, and he was negative. And I think he may have got over it a little bit, and he may have went and got the booster. I don't recall exactly now. But Saturday he was fine, and him and his wife, they did what they do on Saturdays. Went to bed. She woke up Sunday. He didn't.
Wow.
Just like, he's dead.
Yeah.
So don't have the mindset of, well, when I get better, I'll go see the doctor. No.
Yeah.
No, it's not the way it works.
I know.
You go now to see the doctor.
And it's so hard because people will not accuse you, or they'll feel as though you're trying to put some type of fear into it. And I just try to tell them, I'm not trying to put any fear or scare you or whatever, but it's just the reality. I mean, you and I could walk out these doors here, and there could be a masked gunman out there ready to take us out. Who knows? I mean, we could drive.
I hope not, because I want to go fish one more time. I didn't get to fish very much.
And I want to do better than that 101 I shot on Saturday.
Yeah. And people like, well, tomorrow, it's like, tomorrow's never promised. We just get so used to going to bed and waking up every day.
And surely tomorrow will be here.
I've been doing it for almost 45 years now, and it's like, and I think it's in James. I was trying to find it real quick. It's like, well, we're going to do this and do that and go to this city and, do business there, make a lot of money. And James like, you don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. I said, you should say if it's God's will. So, we might have, Betty White, she got 100 years. Billy Graham got 100 years.
Well, she got 99 and...
They said like a few days.
7 days or so. She was close.
Well, Franklin said his dad was 100 because he counted the 9 months in the womb. Well, actually, it's
Well, they said Betty White, she lived through 7 leap years. They're like, so she caught up on those days, so she reached it.
Yeah. By the way, she ain't here no more. But she lived a long life. Now, a football guy just died.
John Madden.
Now, I knew his name
Mm-hmm.
Was he 80s
video games
or something?
Somewhere.
I just knew the name.
Oh.
I knew he's like, dude ain't got no neck. He's like,
John Madden. Yeah, he was a man. A lot of people have passed away.
There was two actors.
They knew the Lord.
Yeah, two actors. It's like, you don't know.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so don't think you have to get well before you go to the doctor.
No, doesn't work that way. So whoever you are out there listening, today may be your day. Like whatever is going on in your life, just know that God loves you. God has not forgotten about you where you are in your situation. It may seem that He's not moving and working in it, but I promise you He is. No matter what the situation, He's calling you, trying to draw you closer to Himself. Sometimes that looks like hurt. Sometimes looks like loss.
He's calling to the sheep. He's standing at the gate.
He's standing at the gate calling them. And so if you hear that faint, distant call, answer the call.
Just bay back.
Like I told everybody in church on Sunday, if you'll let God take control of your life and be the author and the Lord of your life, that you won't be disappointed in where He takes you. It'll look different than what you maybe thought it was going to look like, and it'll be different. You may be doing different things around different people, but you will not be disappointed because you will have this sense of fulfillment of doing what God's called you to do and living out the call of bringing glory to Him. And so we appreciate every one of you guys that listen and share with your friends and family and comment back on here. Appreciate all the info we got from last week of just different questions we had. So I don't think we've had any open-end questions this week, have we, that we need information on? So no, just go Dawgs. Yep. If you need that, if you're out there. Appreciate all you guys not texting me during the game and rubbing it in my face. You guys handled victory with class, and so that was unexpected. So I
guess it's just so new to them, they don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, next time they'll be worse.
I just don't know. What do I do?
So like, subscribe, share wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you next week. Have a good evening.